From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. On the top story, in a significant gesture of strengthening ties between the national government and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. presides over the ceremonial turnover of the third Intergovernmental Relations Body or IGRB Progress Report at the Heroes Hall in Malacañang Palace. The ceremony features President Marcos Jr. receiving the progress report from Department of Budget and Management or DBM Secretary Amena Pangandaman, co-chair of the IGRB, and Minister Mohafer Iqbal, Ministry of Basic, Higher and Technical Education, and co-chair of the IGRB. The IGRB was established under Section 2, Article 6 of Republic Act Number 11054, known as the Bangsamoro Organic Law or BOL. Its primary mandate is to facilitate coordination and resolve issues between the national government and the Bangsamoro government through regular consultations and negotiations aiming to achieve mutual goals. In addition, the IGRB is responsible for operationalizing and overseeing other intergovernmental relations mechanisms outlined in the BOL. Let us listen to Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Today we are gathered here to celebrate what is a significant milestone in our collective journey towards the success of Bangsamoro region. This ceremonial turnover of the Third National Government Bangsamoro Government Intergovernmental Relations Body or IGRB Progress Report is a testament to our fruitful partnership and enduring commitment to peace and development. The operationalization of all 7 IGRB mechanisms is pivotal to the smooth implementation of the provisions and principles laid down in the Bangsamoro Organic Law. With the said bodies established, we now possess the necessary platforms to ensure greater collaboration, coordination, and cooperation between the national government and the Bangsamoro government in pursuing our shared goals and endeavors for our people. Through these mechanisms, we have witnessed significant achievements. First, the qualification and commissioning of former MILF and MNLF members into the Philippine National Police. Second, the inclusion of the proclamations granting amnesties to former members of the MILF and the MNLF, which was issued last November 2023 and concurred with by the House of Representatives and the Senate. Third, is a successful turnover of various properties and assets of the national government within the BARM to the Bangsamoro government. And lastly, the signing in July last year of the Intergovernmental Energy Board Circular on the joint award on petroleum service contracts and coal operating contracts in BARM. These peace and development milestones are part of our collective efforts to lay the groundwork for effective governance and meaningful autonomy in BARM. I am confident that we are on the right path to building a more peaceful, stable, and prosperous Bangsamoro region as we find responsive solutions to the remaining issues and concerns that still need to be addressed. I am confident that the IGRB shall continue performing and executing its mandate pursuant to the principles and provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Maximize the established mechanisms as a conduit for identifying and resolving issues, ensuring judicious use of resources, and learning about best governance practices for BARM. Sustaining and ensuring that our progress remains resilient amidst political transitions is absolutely crucial. With the forthcoming elections, I urge the Department of Budget and Management Secretary and co-chair of the IGRB to expedite the finalization of the IGRB Manual of Operations and Resolution of Identified Issues. The manual will clarify the roles, the functions that facilitate a proactive monitoring of issues and establish a system of continuity amongst those mechanisms. As we move forward, let us be reminded that our partnership is built on trust, respect, and a shared vision for our people's prosperity and their well-being. I reaffirm once again the national government's unwavering commitment to helping and assisting the Bangsamoro government in all its endeavors as we continue with this important process not only for Muslim Mindanao, not only for the southern Philippines, but for the entire republic. So together, let us continue to build a future where peace, progress, and unity prevail. May our collective efforts to bring about positive change for the BARM and our nation be realized sooner rather than later. Inshallah.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken and U.S. Department of Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III on Tuesday formally announced that Washington, D.C. would allot assistance worth $500 million to help in the ongoing modernization program of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, and the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG. Secretary Blinken and Secretary Austin made the announcement during the 2+2 ministerial meeting with their Philippine counterparts, Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, Secretary Enrique Manalo, and Department of National Defense, or DND, Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City. Austin said he wants to double their investment in the country's Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. Meanwhile, both U.S. officials assured that the support given to the Philippines will not change regardless of the outcome in the upcoming U.S. presidential elections. According to Secretary Blinken, the change in leadership in the U.S. is part of the democratic system, but relations between both countries will not change since the two nations are longtime friends and allies. Secretary Austin, for his part, said the U.S. government have a strong bipartisan support for the Philippines, and he cannot imagine that a day will come that both countries will denounce their friendship. In the meantime, DFA Secretary Manalo expressed trust that the 70-year alliance between the Philippines and the United States will last longer because the relation is anchored not only on democratic principles, but also its people-to-people relationship. Secretary Teodoro meanwhile said he believes the U.S. support to the Philippines is important in order to maintain a rules-based international order in the Indo-Pacific region. Both the Philippine Defense Secretary and Foreign Affairs Secretary thanked the U.S. officials for the successful holding of the historic 2+2 ministerial consultation and the help provided by the U.S. to the Philippines. According to Teodoro, the U.S. investment will not only help the Philippines' defense capabilities, EDCA will play a big role in the country's humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday directed disaster response agencies to ensure Filipinos receive timely warnings about incoming typhoons, along with clear instructions on what actions to take and where to seek shelter or assistance. The president issued a directive during a sectoral meeting on preparations for the La Niña phenomenon at the Malacañang Palace. This comes following the onslaught of the Typhoon Karina and the enhanced southwest monsoon, or Habagat, last week. In a social media post, the chief executive also asked government agencies to provide the public with critical disaster information, such as the location of evacuation centers and emergency hotlines. During the meeting, President Marcos reiterated the need to build more water impounding projects as part of the government's master plan for flood management. The chief executive also directed the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, to pursue long-term large-scale flood control plans and to improve catch basins to prevent floods. President Marcos Jr. also ordered the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, to continue to implement the large-scale drainage plan.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday vowed to continue pushing for the advancement of maritime education in the country. In his message during the 201st commencement exercises of the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy, or PMMA, read by Presidential Assistant on Maritime Concerns Secretary Andres Centino, the President expressed confidence that the initiatives his government is taking will usher in the new breed of Filipino sailors that will change the local maritime landscape. Among government initiatives to advance maritime education are the revised standards for the Bachelor of Science in Marine Transportation and Bachelor of Science in Marine Engineering programs issued through a joint memorandum by the Maritime Industry Authority and the Commission on Higher Education. The policy includes the procedures for monitoring and evaluating maritime higher education institutions to ensure that they meet the highest global standards in line with the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers. In February this year, the Chief Executive issued Executive Order, or EO number 55, laying out the 10-year Maritime Industry Development Plan 2028, aimed at upskilling and reskilling the maritime workforce, improving their employability, and ensuring their continuous growth and development. In the same message, President Marcos also urged the PMMA graduates to be courageous and strong in character, as they now belong to the elite few who have endured the rigorous formation of the prestigious institution.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Senate is set to deliberate the proposed 2025 national budget this coming August. According to Senate President Cheese Escudero, the Development Budget Coordination Committee, or DBCC, will start its briefing and debates on August 13th. The Senate President also assured that just like this year's budget, confidential and intelligence funds will only be given to government agencies that need them. Since it's an election year in 2025, Escudero said, the Senate will make sure that the budget will not be used for the campaign of candidates. Escudero also emphasized that there is a law and commission on elections, or COMELEC regulation, that prevent any candidate to use government's fund in their campaign. Meanwhile, Senate Committee on Finance Chairperson Senator Grace Poe said that after the DBCC conducts its briefing on August 13, committee hearing is targeted to start on August 15 and will last until October 18. The Senate Committee on Finance will have 15 vice chairmen that will head the subcommittees that will supervise the proposed funds of government agencies and offices. Senator Poe said the committee will work hard to present to the plenary the proposed 2025 budget in November after the Senate goes into break. The senator expects to pass the proposed budget on third and final reading during the first week of December.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, on Tuesday said an assessment is underway to determine if there are families of overseas Filipino workers or OFWs affected by the recent massive floods that hit Metro Manila and nearby provinces. In an interview, OWA Chief Arnel Ignacio said the agency has initially provided food bags and medical assistance to calamity-affected areas. Ignacio said they are coordinating with local government units or LGUs to assess the kind of assistance to be given to affected OFWs and their families. The OWA chief said the assistance they provided is only a complementary service to the aid given by the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, and LGUs. Latest data from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRIMC, show that over 4 million individuals have been affected, while 39 people died from the effects of the southwest monsoon and Typhoon Karina, 15 of whom are from the National Capital Region, or NCR. Meanwhile, Ignacio lauded OWA personnel for their commitment to maintaining high-quality service for the welfare of every OFW.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine government on Tuesday clarified anew that there was no agreement to notify China before its conduct of resupply missions to the Ayungin Shoal. In a joint press conference in Quezon City, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo said the understanding reached was only to exchange information, which Beijing too is obliged to do so under the ambit of the provisional arrangement it signed with Manila. Manila and Beijing had been at odds with the interpretation of the arrangement, with the latter saying the deal was reached on the condition that the Philippines would inform China in advance and after on-site verification is conducted. Reacting to it, the DFA said the Chinese side has mischaracterized and misrepresented the arrangement, repeating it was only reached without prejudice to both the Philippines and China's possessions. Asked to expound whether China is also empowered to thumb down a resupply operation after the two sides have exchanged information about an upcoming mission, Manalo said if they said no, then that is not part of the understanding. Manalo earlier confirmed that his Chinese counterpart, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, has affirmed China's commitment to honor the provisional deal during a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the 57th Association of Southeast Asian Nations Foreign Ministers meeting in Laos. Manalo and Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr., meanwhile, both assured the public that the government's West Philippine Sea strategy remains intact. Manalo added that the country would continue asserting its sovereign rights and sovereignty in accordance with the rule of law, a rules-based order, and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Both officials also dismissed notions interpreting the deal as a Chinese win or Beijing getting an upper hand over Ayungin Shoal. Ayungin Shoal is a feature situated within the country's 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, that is also being claimed by China as part of its territory. Manalo and Teodoro were joined by Secretary of State Antony Blinken and U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin during the presser after concluding the 2+2 Foreign and Defense Ministerial meeting at Camp Aguinaldo in Quezon City. Blinken said the U.S. welcomed the provisional understanding and was pleased to see that the first resupply mission since it was reached went forward without incident. He reiterated that the U.S. stands by its ironclad defense commitment to the Philippines under the Mutual Defense Treaty. In a joint statement, the four secretaries expressed serious concerns about dangerous behavior in the South China Sea over the past year that resulted in injury and damage to property, as well as militarization of reclaimed features and unlawful maritime claims.
Dateline Malacañang.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo on Tuesday said there is no basis for Beijing to warn Manila that the United States deployment of the Typhoon mid-range missile system to the Philippines would lead to an arms race. In a joint press conference following the 2+2 Foreign and Defense Ministerial meeting with Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr., U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III, Manalo clarified that the system was not meant for any offensive purpose. The statement comes as Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi conveyed Beijing's concern over the deployment of the American missile system during a bilateral meeting with Manalo in Laos on Friday. China's state news agency Xinhua quoted Wang as saying that Manila's possible introduction of the system would create a regional tension, confrontation, and trigger an arms race. The U.S. deployed a mid-range capability or MRC missile system to northern Luzon on April 11 as part of the exercise Salagnib 24. Typhoon is a land-based ground launch system that enhances multi-domain fires. Its launcher can fire the Standard Missile 6 or SM-6 and the Tomahawk Land Attack Missile or TLAM. Earlier, the Philippine Army said there is a possibility that the MRC may extend its deployment in the country beyond September when the Salagnib training ends.
Dateline Malacañang.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III on Tuesday said the Philippines and the United States are working to conclude and sign a key military intelligence sharing deal by the end of the year. Speaking after the 2+2 Foreign and Defense Ministerial meeting at Camp Aguinaldo in Quezon City, Austin said both nations are committed to making the defense alliance even more secure through technology and security and cyber cooperation. According to a U.S.-Philippine joint statement following the 2+2, this GSOMIA or GSOMIA would lay the foundation for enhanced, expanded, and timely sharing of information and defense technology. Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. meanwhile said the deal would serve as a tool to help the Philippines develop its operational security. At the dialogue, Austin, Teodoro, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, and State Secretary Antony Blinken also agreed to advance cybersecurity cooperation by investing in the capabilities of the Philippines. These include the U.S. providing an integrated cyber range and training platform and on-demand training to develop and sustain a capable and skilled cyber workforce, on top of fortifying what the four ministers call the maturing and modern defense alliance. The two states are also finding ways to foster economic resilience. In the past year, the U.S. deployed its first ever presidential trade and investment mission to the country and launched the Luzon Economic Corridor or LEC during a historic trilateral leaders summit with Japan and the Philippines in April, among others. At the 2+2, the officials said they would help drive progress on the LEC, including identifying initial priority projects later this year for investment. They also agreed to further cooperate on critical minerals processing and strengthen private sector partnerships, particularly shipbuilding and ship repair. They also emphasized the need to operationalize opportunities under the bilateral 123 agreement for civil nuclear energy by helping Manila develop the workforce, regulatory environment, and strong commercial partnerships that will enable the development of a robust, safe civil nuclear sector. Within the year alone, the two states would convene various high-level meetings, including the Second Energy Policy Dialogue in Manila, to diversify critical mineral supply chains, promote renewable energy deployment, and foster reliable and resilient power grids in the country, among others. Both governments are also scheduled to hold the Nuclear Supply Chain Forum in Manila this November, which will bring together leading U.S. companies with government and private sector stakeholders to discuss partnership opportunities.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Philippine Department of Agriculture or DA said it will launch the government-controlled vaccination using the AVAC Live vaccines against African swine fever or ASF in the third quarter of the year. This came after the Food and Drug Administration or FDA released the Certificate of Product Registration or CPR for AVAC Live vaccines from Vietnam. In a joint press conference, DA Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said they have allocated 350 million pesos for the procurement and free distribution of 600,000 doses for growers. The DA has accounted for 150,000 current existing stocks of ASF vaccines from a single supplier of AVAC Live vaccines. As of July 26, there are 150 barangays in the country under red zones or those with active ASF cases, while 476 cities and municipalities have been upgraded to pink zones or buffer areas adjacent to infected zones according to the Bureau of Animal Industry or BAI. The FDA, meanwhile, assured that necessary trials were conducted before the issuance of CPR, saying the benefits of AVAC Live vaccines far outweigh the risks involved. Zacata said they can revoke the validity of CPR once significant mortality incidents are observed. Meanwhile, Laurel said the restricted vaccination would help prevent ASF resurgence or major outbreak during the rainy season. The DFA chief, however, said the public has no reason to panic. Laurel said the hog industry may feel the impact of the government-controlled vaccinations at least after 6 months. As of Tuesday, the prevailing price range of pork kasim in Metro Manila is at 300 pesos per kilogram to 380 pesos per kilogram, while pork liempo ranges from 340 kilograms or 340 pesos per kilograms to 410 pesos per kilograms.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Department of Agriculture DA Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel bared plans to assist fisher folks in areas affected by the oil spill from the sunken motor tanker MT Terra Nova off Limay Town, Bataan Province. In an ambush interview, he said the DA may utilize part of the fund intended for fuel subsidies or from the 1 billion pesos of its Quick Response Fund or QRF. The DA has around 510.447 million pesos budget for fuel subsidy, which is initially set to be distributed to crop, livestock, and poultry farmers who own or rent production machinery. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources or BFAR meanwhile assured continued assessment and evaluation of the quality and safety of fish for consumption from the affected areas. In terms of fishing ban implementation, Briguera said it is now up to the local governments to assess the real-time situation. BFAR spokesperson Nazario Briguera during the Bagong Pilipinas Ngayon briefing said the public should no longer consume crustaceans, shellfish, and other fishes with visible oil slick. Overall, the BFAR said the estimated loss of income for all registered fishers in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon may reach as high as 351 million pesos if the oil spill continues to spread for 22 days. To date, there are 46,000 fishers registered in the said regions.
Dateline Malacañang.
Finally, for Dateline Malacañang, the Philippine Department of Agriculture or DA allayed fears following a media report on the alleged avian influenza or AI or bird flu outbreak in Tarlac Province. In an ambush interview, DA Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said the Bureau of Animal Industry or BAI has not received any official report from the local government of Tarlac. In a separate interview, Agriculture Assistant Secretary Constante Palabrica reported that BAI has already received blood samples samples from 3 farms in Tarlac. He, however, did not specify the sources of the blood samples. Palabrica said the result is expected to come out within the week. Should the samples test positive, Palabrica assured control measures would be easily activated against the possible spread of AI.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila. Dateline Malacañang.